Okay, so we're doing greatest common factor, GCFs. Now, these are questions you'll ask yourself when they're expressions. These are not expressions yet, so are they in order? What number do they have in common? What letter do they have in common? So factors are what? What's a factor? It's when you multiply, right? It's what multiplies to give you something. Okay, so knowing that, I'm going to show you by hand, and then I'm going to show you all the math trick, yes? Or the calculator trick. So factors of 28, I always start with my smallest numbers first, so 1 times 28 are factors of 28. 2 and 14 are factors of 28. And then I get to numbers that I don't know anymore. So I can do 28 divided by 3. And see how it gave me a decimal? That means 3 is not a factor. Okay? So 28 divided by 4. See how it gave me a whole number? So 4 and 7 are factors of 28. Now, does 5 go into 28? No. Does 6 go into 28? Again, we can see it does not. And then look, there's 7, and it works its way back up. So there are all my factors of 28. So now all my factors of 40 are 1 times 40, 2 and 20. Does 3 go into 40? No. What about 4? 4 and 10, 5, 8, 6, 7, no, and then look, there's 8, so we're done. So there's all my factors of 28 and of 40. Now, greatest common factor, does that mean the biggest number that matches or the smallest number that matches? The greatest, the biggest. So which number is the biggest that matches on both of these? 4. Because this is 40, which is too big. 20, 28, 14, 10, 8, 7, and then 5 didn't count, so then they both have a 4. So 4 is my GCF. Now, there is a way to do this in your calculator. It's math, right, 9. Okay. Sorry, y'all. So I can do math, right, 9. And I could do 28. Now you have to use a comma to separate them, which is right next to the parentheses, comma 40. And it tells me 4. So did we do it correctly? Yes. So I know it says GCD, but it's still the same thing. Oh, not those. And you're gonna put a comma between. You can only do 2 numbers, no letters, no negatives. We'll learn those, how to do those on our own. Okay. So now I can do math, right, 9, 55, comma 21. And what's my answer? 1. It's right next to the parentheses. Right here. Okay, so now I said we can only type 2 in this. So to do this one, I'm going to show you do math, right, 9, 15, comma 18. And there's 2 ways to do it. We know that 3 is the GCF. Does 3 go into 66? Then 3 is your answer. Or if it's something that you're not sure about, what you can do is you do math, right, 9 again. You take your GCF of the first 2, comma your third number, and it'll give you the final GCF, which is still 3. Okay? Any questions with the calculator trick? So math, right arrow, number 9. Okay, so now when we look at letters, I'm going to show you, like we did here, I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to explain the rule. So if I have x to the third power, isn't that x times x times x? And then I have x to the 7th, x 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then I have x to the 5th power. How many do these have in common? 3. So x to the 3rd is our answer. Okay, now look at your exponents. What do you notice about the one with the 3? You have 3, 7, 5. It's your smallest. Okay, so your answer when all the terms have the same variable is the smallest exponent. So looking here, do all the terms have a y? Yes. Which one has the smallest exponent? 1. Do I have to put the 1? No, so y is my GCF there. Now we have a set that's throwing in numbers and letters. So looking at this 3, if you had to guess what the GCF is, what would you guess? 2. Well, you can look at 6 and 10. Does 6 go into 10? No. 3 is your next factor of 6, which does not go into 10, but 2 does. Does 2 also go into 8? Yes, so 2 is your GCF. Now, this is where that first question at the top comes in play. It says, are they in order? I know this is just a list, but if you were to put them in an expression, which one would go first? The 10x to the third power, and that's a positive number, so your GCF is positive. Now, do they all have x's? Yes. And which one has the smallest exponent? 2, 3, and 1. So it's just 2x. So here, now remember, you cannot type negatives for Math Right 9. But if I were to type these in order to put them in an expression, which one would go first? The 27, and is that positive or negative? So my GCF is going to be positive. So I have 18, 63, which gives me 9. Does 9 go into 27? Yes, so 9 is my GCF. Do all 3 terms have a y value? Yes. And which one has the smallest exponent? 2. There's your answer. So number 8, do they all have an a? Yes. Now none of them have a coefficient, so I mean you could put a 1, but you don't have to take out 1. Okay, so they all have an a. And which a is the smallest?
3.
Do they all have a b?
Yes.
And which one's the smallest?
2.
1. So this is your answer. Because you have b squared, b to the first, and b squared. b to the first is the smallest. Now, what's different about the back than the front? Yeah, they're written into an expression. You see how this is an expression? In the front, they were a list. It was like this one, and this one, right? It listed them. This is an expression. When I give you an expression, guess what you have to give me as an answer? Also an expression. Okay, so we have to find our GCF just like we did on the front. So we're going to split these 3 terms, and we're always going to check their order. So do y'all remember how to tell order by degrees? You add the exponents when there's multiple letters. So what's 4 plus 3? What's 3 plus 4? 7. And what's 3 plus 2? Is this greatest to least? Yeah, 7, 7, 5. So do we have to move anything? No. So now look at the numbers. Does 9 go into 15? No. What else goes into 9? 3. Does 3 go into 15? Does 3 go into 18? 3 is our GCF. Now, could you have done the Math Right 9 in your calculator if you weren't sure? Yeah, of course. Do all 3 terms have an a?
Yes.
And which exponent is the smallest?
3.
Do all 3 terms have a c? And which exponent is the smallest?
2.
So that's your GCF. That's your factor. Now, factor means multiply, so we're going to put parentheses because we're multiplying. What's the opposite of multiplication?
Division.
So we have to divide to figure out what's left and what goes inside. Okay, so what's 9 divided by 3? 3. And then do y'all remember the rule with exponents when you divide? You subtract. Think of takeaway. Like if you had 4 and I took 3 out, how many do you have left? 1. So 4 minus 3 is 1. What's 3 minus 2 for C? 1. So there's your first term. Negative 15 divided by 3 is what? Negative 5. A3 over A3, what's 3 minus 3? So there's 0 A's left, so don't put A. And what's 4 minus 2? 18 divided by 3? Positive 6. A3 over A3, 3 minus 3 is 0. 2 minus 2 is 0, so that's it. There were no letters left. We took them all out. So that is how you put your answer back into an expression while taking out your GCF. So if I ever say, hey, you need to take out your GCF, this is what I'm talking about. So let's look at number 10. Okay, is it in order? So if this is a degree of 3, what's this a degree of?
4.
And what's this a degree of?
2.
Matt, what'd you forget?
Oh, 3.
A technically has a 1, so 1 plus 2 is 3. To know the degree, you're adding the exponents. This only has one letter with one exponent, so it's just 3. 2 plus 2 is 4, and then 1 plus 2 is 3. Now, remember, the highest degree goes first, so I have to rewrite this before I take out my GCF. Now, does the order matter on the next two? No. So if I write mine different than yours, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, it says if the first term is negative, your GCF must be negative. So this is another reason order is important. You have to put it in order to know if your GCF is going to be positive or negative. So because it's in order and my first term is negative, what is my GCF going to be? Negative. Now, I always go through and find my smallest number. Which number is the smallest without thinking of negative?
5.
5. Does 5 go into 10? Does 5 go into 15? Then 5 is my GCF. So I have negative 5 so far. Do all 3 terms have an A? No. So can I take an A out? No. They have to all have it. Yes, they do. So which one has the smallest exponent? Well, 2, 2, and 3, so we're going to take out negative 5d squared. So again, we divide it out because this is multiplication. Okay, what's negative 15 divided by negative 5? And then a squared because we didn't take any a's out. And then 2 minus 2 is 0, so no more. What's 10 divided by negative 5? And I still have the a. 2 minus 2 is 0, so that's gone. What's negative 5 divided by negative 5? Positive 1. And then 3 minus 2 is 1, so we have 1. There's your answer. Any questions so far? Okay, so look at this one. Do all 3 terms have a coefficient? No. This doesn't, I mean, technically it has a negative 1, but do you ever have to take out a 1? Does it change anything if you take out a 1? No, so we don't have to worry about 1s. So because they all don't have a coefficient, they all don't have a big number in front, we're not going to take out a number. Now, is it in order? What's the degree here?
8.
Here? 7. Be careful, don't forget those ones that don't have an exponent showing. 4 plus 3 is 7. So it's in order, we don't have to change anything. So my first term is positive or negative?
Positive.
So my GCF is going to be what? Positive. Okay, so I know I have a positive GCF. Now, we just said we're not going to take out a coefficient, so do they all have an M?
Yes.
Okay, and which one has the smallest? 1. Do they all have an N?
Yes.
And which one has the smallest?
3.
So Mn to the third is your GCF. Okay, so again, your coefficients are going to stay the same because we didn't take anything out. 5 minus 1 is 4. 3 minus 3 is 0 n's. Okay, negative 14, well, that just stays negative 14. The m's cancel. 6 minus 3 is 3. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. 4 minus 1 is 3. And then the n's cancel. Any questions? Okay, so look at this one. How many terms are here? kind of weird. It's actually only 2. Yes, I know there's a plus sign in the middle of those parentheses, but parentheses means that whole thing stays together. So that's one side, that's one side. What do the 2 sides have in common? Don't overthink this one. They both have a P plus Q. So guess what your GCF is? P plus Q. So your GCF is P plus Q. So when I divide out my P plus Q, well, this one cancels on the left, and I get 7xy to the third. And on the right, what happens? When they both cancel, what does that equal? Negative what? 1. You're exactly right. So if you cancel the whole thing, do not just cancel the term. Put a 1. Positive or negative. Okay, last but not least, I want you to look at number 13 and tell me if you can find the mistake. I will give you a hint. It's not the GCF. So the GCF is good. Doesn't matter. Anybody notice?
Wait, the horse is good?
Huh?
The 4. The 4.
No, that's right.
Oh, no.
What do we notice here? What should that equal?
1.
Did they do the plus 1?
No.
So that is the mistake. It should have had a plus 1. Remember, when everything cancels, it's 1, it doesn't disappear. Yes? It's not necessarily canceling, it's dividing by itself. Okay? Huh? Right here. Right here to here. So like this did equal that, this did equal that, but this, when they top and the bottom match, that equals 1, not 0. So they canceled it when it should have been 1. One more thing on the practice. Look at number 9. What's wrong with number 9? Is it in order?
No.
No. What's the degree on the left? 2, and the degree over here is 3. So when you flip it, negative 5xy squared plus xy. Now it's in order. Now you can find your GCF.